quantifiable. I'm recording now. So let's just go through it. So obviously you're going to make your notes as well, whether you want to make it on your test. I've kept a copy of everyone's this time, so you can write all over yours and keep it. I've got a copy of all of your work. All right. So maybe you need to make notes on the things that you did right and wrong rather than just look at it. Okay. So we've got question 1. Okay. Maybe some of you that got it wrong could tell me if you think you know what's right now. So we've got -3 to the power of -3. Okay. What do we deal with first, Charlie? The negative exponent. Good. And what does a negative exponent tell us, Charlie? Okay, so what do we write instead? What is it? Well, it's 1 over -3 to the power of 3. That's step 1, isn't it? Even if you're doing this in your head, okay? Then we have to do -3 to the power of 3, which is -27. So we've got 1 divided by -27, which we should then write as -1 over 27, or if you want to put your negative before. But we shouldn't really leave it like this, should we? No? Okay. Happy with that? Everyone, any questions on that one?
What about if it was just -27? Like that would be totally wrong.
That is totally wrong, isn't it? Yeah. But you do get some credit because it's criterion, knowing that 3 cubed is 27. But it's quite a level 2, 3 kind of credit. You know what I mean? That's like really basic stuff. But you get some. All right? By doing that kind of thing, you ensure you're not going to get a 0 at the end. 2, we've got -27 to the power of 1/3. So, who would like to tell me this one? Jack?
So it's 1/3, so it's a cube root.
Yeah. So we can do the cube root of -27, which is, thank you, Jack, -3. He's chuckling because he knows he wrote something incorrect, stupidly. Question 3, we've got 6/7 to the power of -2. So what do we deal with first, Charlie? The negative exponent. What does that tell me, Cameron? You've gone a different route, but if I deal with the negative first, I'll come back to what you said, but if I deal with the negative first, what does it do? No. Doesn't do a square root. Hayden? Flips a fraction, so I can rewrite it as 7/6 still to the power of 2. All right? And then I do,
7 times 7, which is 49.
well, I apply the power to both.
Yeah. And then you do 7 times 7, which is 49, and 6 times 6, which is 96.
Okay. All right. I think, Cameron, you were going to say that we could also do it as applying the whole power straight away, like that. Yeah? And then what do I do? So the negatives, the negative power on the top, if we take our shortcut, puts it on the bottom, and the negative power on the bottom puts it on the top. So we end up at the same point, okay? Which is good because we don't want to have different answers depending on what we do. This time, I'm going to say it. So simplify each expression. use positive exponents only. What did I tell you about 5 minutes before the end of the test? Make sure you use positive exponents only. I even said I've spotted on at least one person's a negative exponent. Put your hand up if you've still got negative exponents in your work. Okay. Point made. That was at least 18 of you for viewers of the video. Question 4 then. So we've got a cubed b squared multiplied by a to the power of 4 b to the power of negative 5. So step 1 is to, Sachin? So a to the power of 3 plus 4, which is a to the power of 7. B squared plus negative 5, which is b to the power of negative 3. Okay, which is one step. And then we finish it off, because this is a negative exponent. So Charlie, we need to make it
Positive.
so we have a to the power. Now just remember, a to the power of 7 is not affected by the negative exponent. That doesn't go anywhere. The b is affected by the negative exponent, so therefore we have this. Okay? So that was one confusion people had. More than one person had the problem where if there was one term, one part of the expression with a negative exponent, they applied it to the whole thing.
Yeah, that was
Right?
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
So if that is one thing, maybe you need to make a note to not to do that. Because when you look back at this quiz for your revision, it would be really nice if you see a note written in your own hand saying, this is what I did wrong. Because then you go, okay, I won't do that next time. All right. Question 5, we've got 9a squared divided by negative 3a all squared. Cameron?
I thought that was a 7. That's why I got it wrong.
What was the
Seriously thought that
seven?
was a 7.
What was the 7?
No, I seriously thought that was a 7.
Well, the only reason I would say it definitely isn't, if you any kind of confusion, if you had to make a judgment, is if you look at question 2 and 3, there are 2 7s. I mean, I can see sometimes people write their 7s with a line through it. Yeah, but in terms of analysing it, if you have to make a decision, is it a 7, is it not a 7, look at elsewhere where I have written something that's obviously a 7. Does it look anything like it?
Yeah, look.
Well then, question.
Number 6.
Okay? Anyway, let's move on. You know your mistake. Photocopying issues, I guess. Right, so this one then, we've got to deal with the top stays the same. The squared applies to, so we've got negative 3 squared and a squared. That becomes, what's negative 3 squared?
9.
So this is one step, which we then know is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1.
I got this wrong. I did 9 minus 9.
Yeah, so this is where a couple of people, not too many people, but definitely more than one of you, make you feel better, started adding and subtracting these numbers. This is a division, okay? 9 divided by negative 3. We don't add or subtract these numbers.
You divide.
6. So again, we've got negative 14, x to the power of 6, y to the power of 7, all divided by 7x to the power of minus 3, y to the power of 9. Now, there's lots of ways you could go about doing this, lots of steps, whatever order you like to do. One thing I did say to you was, well, let's split it up if you need to. You don't have to, but if you've made a mistake, maybe you should have done. Okay? All right, and then deal with them in turn. So negative 14 divided by 7 is negative 2. So some people wrote that and then made a mistake later on. When I divide, what do I do? Subtract the exponent. So 6 subtract negative 3. So those of you that got this wrong, did you write this out? Therefore, have it visually in front of you to check that you were doing the right thing. Right? And then this one would be y 7 subtract 9. So I end up with negative 2 times x to the power of 9, y to the power of negative 2. Now this is where some people then made the mistake, which is applying the negative to the whole thing. But the negative power only affects the y. So it becomes, if you like, negative 2 times x to the power 9 times 1 over y squared. So the line can go all the way. So we actually end up with negative 2 x to the power of 9 all over y squared. Okay, step by step. Any questions on that? No? Yep.
Since it's like negative 27 and only positive exponents, like what would you do? I just wrote
Right,
that, but
that's not an exponent.
okay.
It's a negative number, which is very different to it being an exponent. I did notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get confused between exponents and just negative numbers, you know? Question 7, we're over the page now. So we've got 6x to the power of 4, y to the power of 3, multiplied by negative 4, x to the power of negative 8, y to the power of negative 2. I remember talking about these. What do brackets mean? Multiplication, right? What do we not do with the two numbers? Add them. We multiply them. So we can think of it without brackets as 6 multiplied by negative 4 multiplied by x to the power of 4 multiplied by x to the negative 6 multiplied by y cubed multiplied by y to the minus 2. Again, you don't have to do this, but if you're adding things, maybe you need to. Right? 6 multiplied by negative 4 is negative 24. Right? Some people just imagine there was no negative. Maybe it explains if you're just rubbing it out if you don't want negatives. Negative 24, x to the power of, well, these powers we add. 4 add negative 6 is negative 2. 3 add negative 2 is 1. Okay? Again, the negative...
It's at 8, not a 6.
Is it 8?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, sorry. Well spotted. So that should be something different there, yeah. So 4 add negative 8 is actually negative 4. It's still y to the power of 1, isn't it? Okay. So the negative only applies there, so we end up with negative 24 y divided by x to the power of 4. Okay? Any questions on that? No? See, have you written that down? Because you didn't answer it in the test, so I thought you might want an example now. Okay. Next question. Not sneaky enough. Did spot it. We've got 20 n to the power of 4 m to the power of negative 3 divided by 8 n to the power of 8 m to... Again, we can do this in any order. We could move the m to the top and the m to... Let's deal with it another way first. So instead of writing it all out this time, I'm just going to do it. So 20 divided by 8, not 20 add 8 or 20 subtract 8 or 20 times 8 or anything like that. It's 20 divided by 8, which we have to simplify down to 5 over 2. So we've got 5 over 2. What do I do with division? So I'm going to write n to the negative 4. All right? Negative 3 subtract negative 5. So it's m to the power of 2. So what does this do? Well, the negative means this one ends up down here. So we've got 5 divided by 2, and we've got n to the power of 4 and m to the power of 2. Okay?
What did you get? 20 divided by 8. Yes, it is.
Right. Number 9. 9 was a lot working in this one. So we've got x squared, y to the power of 6, divided by a to the power of negative 2 times b. All of that is raised to the power of 2. That is then multiplied by x cubed, y to the power of 0, divided by a times b. All of that is raised to the power of negative 3. Okay, let's address the first thing that people did, more than one person. Can I add those two powers?
No.
Why?
Because
Come.
Because you have done the exponents factorial, so then you add them in the
No, but why can't I add those two powers is what I'm saying. That's what people did.
All the bases that are inside of it are the same.
Yeah, I can only add powers when the base is the same. So in this case, that entire thing is a base because it's raised to the power of 2. It is not the same as this one. Okay? Unless you can simplify it all down to show that it's the same, but it's not. Therefore, I cannot add these. In the same way that 3 to the power of 2 multiplied by 3 to the power of 3 is 3 to the power of 5, but 3 to the power of 2 multiplied by 2 to the power of 3 is not anything. We can't just add those powers. All right? These are the same. So what we need to do is, first step, apply the powers to each bracket first, which is x to the power of 4, because we multiply, y to the power of 12, a to the power of
-4.
b to the power of 2. Okay, going to leave it like that for a moment. This one, x to the power of 9, y to the power of 0, a to the power of -3. Okay,
why is it not the squared? Isn't it y to the power of 6 times? Oh, you multiply the two powers. Okay.
Jack.
Couldn't you also let, because it's a negative exponent,
Yeah,
shouldn't
you-
you flip it?
Yeah, you do.
I could have done that first, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't. Remember where Cameron said he wanted to do the exponents to everything first? We did it by flipping it first.
Okay, well you can do it both
But
ways.
yeah, we showed we could do it. But this time I've just chosen to, because I've done it with the first one, I've just done it with the second one as well. Just to show you can. What do I do now? Well, how do you multiply fractions together?
Oh, you multiply. Oh no. You
Multiply the...
denominator. Well, no, you multiply both numerators.
So you multiply the numerators, if that's what you mean,
Yeah.
right? And then you multiply the denominators. So we have
You just
one fraction, x to the power of 4, y to the power of 12, x to the power of -9, y to the power of 0. And then we've got a to the -4, b squared, a to the -3, b to the... Can you see why I didn't flip it yet? So I can now simplify. So when I'm multiplying, what do I do? X to the power of 4 add -9 is
-5.
-5. That's then dealt with. right? I'm going to put my line in. 12 add 0. Still y to the power of 12. On the bottom, -4 add -3. Dealt with. 2 add -3. -1. Okay, so I've dealt with it like that. Now I'm going to deal with the negatives. So here's my line. Keep it, let's take the shortcut approach if you like. The y stays on the top. The x swaps. The a swaps. The b swaps. I'm done.
You have to write the X in the center. Or you just leave it?
As long as it's on the bottom. As long as it's clearly underneath everything. It would look nicer if I wrote it x to the power of 5 there instead of there, you're right. But so with all these questions, there's nothing different. As they get harder, there's just more steps to take into consideration. All right? I think probably the hardest thing you've had to do in this whole test is -3 add -4 or something like that. That's probably the hardest thing. All right? Once you've got all the laws of exponents memorized, that's as hard as it gets. There was no fractional ones in that, and that's the level 7-8 question. All right? Any questions about any of those? So, what you're going to do, I'm still recording, so I've got evidence that I've told you to do this. If parents say, what you're going to do now, right, before we can move on and talk a little bit more about, well, we're not going to have much time to talk about standard form. Because this is your last formative assessment on these exponents, all right, the next time you're going to be testing on exponents is going to be your summative, and that's going to include standard form and stuff, right? I need, or what you need, and I'll just check you're doing it, on this bit of paper or in your book or whatever you like, I need an action plan for you. What are the things that you did wrong? What do you need to work on? Now, that could be learn how to add with positive and negative numbers. If that's it, okay, then write it down. That's what you need to do. All right? If it's you don't actually understand a particular law of the exponents, like the adding the powers, or I didn't know how to do, try and be specific. I don't really want, I need to work on the harder ones. Or what was it in particular? No one got an 8 this time, unfortunately. Okay. So you've all got something to be writing, and it's all of you as an individual. So there shouldn't be any discussions about this now.